cameramen, are you ready?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
The meeting of the Oregon School District Board of Education for Monday, October 10th, 2016 is called to order at 6:32 p.m. Ms. Wick, can you call the roll?
Ms. Feeney.
Present.
Mr. Uphoff.
Present.
Ms. Flanagan.
Present.
Mr. Raymond.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Go.
Ms. Maidson.
I am here.
Mr. Zock.
Present. I approve that this meeting has been appropriately noticed pursuant to Wisconsin's open meetings law, and that notice will be with Ms. Wick if anyone wants to verify that. We have a short agenda tonight that includes our usual consent calendar, communication from the public, discussion items, and then the information item is with respect to the budget, the compensation referendum, the superintendent's report, and then we have a closed session. At the conclusion of that, I need a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Jamie, I don't think we have any contracts here. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries by unanimous voice vote. Pursuant to Board Policy 180, I should note that we had a number of generous donations with respect to the consent calendar that we just passed. One was from Ludke Storm Mackey Chiropractic Clinic. They contributed $1,000 for the splash pad. Brooklyn Elementary received an anonymous donation of $100. The splash pad fund received a contribution of $500 from Pure Integrity Homes Inc. and Tony Antonewitz. And finally, the Knights of Columbus donated a little over $1,100 for a special education program, and we thank all those folks for those generous donations to the district.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I thought we were voting on approval of the agenda and not on the consent calendar.
I think you're right. I got ahead of myself, didn't I, Dan?
Just wanted to make sure.
Anybody want anything removed from the consent calendar?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got Mr. Raymond on the second, so Mr. Kraus with the motion and Mr. Raymond with the second. This time for the consent calendar with the donations. And again, no contracts here, so we can do that by voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries by unanimous voice vote. Pursuant to Board Policy 180.04, the board receives or gives the opportunity for the public to address the board. Is there any member of the public that is here to address the board this evening? Anybody from the public? And finally, anyone from the public? Seeing none, we'll move to item C of the agenda, information items, OEA report. Any report this evening? None? And Tessa, welcome. And why don't you tell us what's going on with student council these days?
Well, this week actually we have a meeting on Wednesday, and what this is it's basically an entire day for planning. So each class is going to get together for like 90 minutes and discuss like future class projects that we want to accomplish throughout the year. And the main goal for this year that I have is to have student council be involved, OHS student council be involved in the community as much as possible. So one of the projects that we'll actually start working on in November, and then probably December it will happen, it happened last year as well. It's our character breakfast. So students from the OHS like dress up as princesses, and we serve pancake breakfast to children and like families throughout the community. And it's actually a fundraiser, and this year the fundraiser will be for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So that's just one of the main projects that we're going to be focusing on for first semester. But as we continue with these meetings, I'll keep you updated on more.
Terrific. And so then you're going to have like 90 minutes where the classes or the class reps will be working on that, and then you're going to get together and prioritize stuff. Who's going to facilitate that?
So our advisor, Miss Weiner, she teaches health at the high school, and the executive team, so that would be myself and then my vice president, treasurer, secretary, are all going to be there for the entire day, but then the class presidents, so for freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, they're going to be leading it and kind of brainstorming different activities or projects that we want to accomplish for this year.
Terrific. And so will you be done with that task on Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
So next meeting, maybe you could tell us about what goals you guys have set.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other board members have any questions of Tessa in their process?
We went to the character breakfast last year and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Very cool. Very well attended too.
Thanks for your report, Tessa. All right, we don't have any action items tonight under D. Under item E, discussion items, committee reports, policy committee. Barb, anything?
Have
report?
not met.
Okay. Vision steering committee, Jeff?
We did not meet in September. We will be meeting a week from this Wednesday, the 19th. And I'm still working on the agenda. I'll be sending that out to folks sometime soon.
I have a concern about not meeting some of these committees, particularly policy, because there's a lot to do in policy, reorganizing the old grouping of policy into the new format, and I think it would behoove the policy committee to meet every month. I'm just putting it out there, and it's just my opinion.
Thank you. You know, I've been in communication with Barb about holding meetings in advance for a month or so while we were working hard on the referendum. So
That's
that
true.
came with my approval, and we understand the need to move forward with policy and that, and we established that as a 2-year goal to do that. And so.
Well, I agree with that, but the referendum, you know, we signed up to do this, and I think their committee should still be meeting. It's once a month.
Yeah, Barb.
My concern is not particularly the time it takes for school board members to go to the meeting. My concern is the amount of staff time it takes. And in a normal work period, that's fine, but right now our staff are heavily taxed to work on this referendum project, and to me that's the highest priority.
And as I said, Barb did come to me with that concern, and I was fine with holding off for a month or so on policy and on the large goals while we move forward with some of the other tasks.
Well, I'm glad that you explained it, because I'm nervous about the fact that we've dropped some of our committees, and I don't want other committees to be dropped from our participation. And I understand that staff is busy, but again, I just wanted to make sure that we all had understanding that these committees are very viable and are very important for us to be attentive to.
I believe we have that understanding and they're acting that way, so. Gina?
Well, I just wanted to say from a staff perspective, very much appreciative, because we are working on the board's #1 priority very heavily right now, and if there's something that needs immediate attention by the policy committee, Barb and I would be in contact about that.
All right, moving on to information item F, budget 2016-2017. Andy, we got your printouts?
We got some printouts.
Okay.
Apologize, not really set up very well for PowerPoint tonight, so we'll just do it this way.
We are just a matter of months away from getting into our regular space, right?
We are.
And then we will have full capacity for audio visual.
So I'll try to stand here and work you through it.
And just for a kind of a perspective, at our next meeting in 2 weeks, they're gonna bring forward the final budget. And so
Yep.
this is giving us a heads up as the
Yep.
change in the numbers, so that
Yep.
if we have any questions in advance of that, we can ask you.
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
So a couple
Great.
pieces of information have finally become known that we were kind of working for the budget. So you don't see a lot of budget numbers in here, but these are the pieces of information that have become known. And the first one is enrollment. Even though we're over a month into the school year, the third Friday count in September is kind of our magic number. which we get to count and levy students based on that date. So we kind of give you a feel for that. Residents last year in 2015-16 were about 3726, were 3726. And residents this year on Third Friday was 3778. So that's the number of students. We actually have to change that to an FTE because we have 4K students and they count only as 0.6. So I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. And then we have open enrolled. OE stands for open enrolled ins and open enrolled outs. You kind of see that our trend continues, that we're growing the number of open enrolled ins slightly, only 10. Originally I budgeted quite a bit more than that. And you see our open enrollment outs actually increased a little bit more than our open enrolled ins. So our open enrollment number is actually a negative decrease a little bit. We did see a trend there, and something that we're starting to think about, and that's kind of something that happened out of our control. We saw about a doubling, not significant or a huge number, but we saw in the past we had about 4K students. We had about 6 students would open enroll out from our district. This year it was like 11 or 12. And so we started digging a little bit further into that, and we did have a 4K site actually close this last year on Main Street. It's called Little Folks, is that right? And what we're being told by Mary Weber is that there is a real need for 4K sites in our community. So what we believe happened was those people couldn't find a 4K site, and so they went to Madison, and that's where our open enrolled increase was at for 4K. It's our belief that those folks will probably come back for kindergarten, but that's a trend and kind of a need in our community that we see.
So, are you saying that all the slots in the other 4K programs were filled?
That's my understanding. What's that?
The daycare part.
The daycare part, not the 4K part?
No, let me finish.
She can explain it better than I.
So, being a parent of a young child, I'm sensitive to this. So either the 4K spots were full, or we had 4K spots, but some of our sites don't have additional what we call wraparound care. So someone might need care for all day, and so just having a morning or an afternoon 4K spot with not that additional wraparound care, then it wasn't a viable option.
That's
So
why
we're
we
al-
believe they'll come back to us from this kindergarten.
So we're also seeing a need in our community for preschool care in addition to 4K.
So, is there any possibility that some of those sites that don't have wraparound care would be interested in adding it? Because we'll have the same problem next year.
If the numbers are as high as this year, then
Right.
we very well could. I think we've explored that with them, and I don't think there's much opportunity for that. Unless a new site becomes available.
Which
Or-
that's foreshadowing. So, Mary, Candace, Andy, and I have been talking, brainstorming about ways to meet that need. So I anticipate we will have additional discussions and we'll hopefully have some ideas to bring to the board.
So, just kind of going down head count, we're almost at that round number of 4,000 students that we're serving. We're just a little bit short. And then the FTE number that I was talking about before, when you take the 4K students and you change their FTE based on, because they don't go to school all day, they turn into actually a 0.6 because there's some outreach there. And so that takes our FTE numbers a little bit lower than what the head count numbers are. So we went from, on an FTE basis, which is our revenue count number, and we're going to talk about that in a second, went from 3635 to, I think about up 38, 3673. Again, I had projected a little bit higher than that, so this was a little bit tighter of a budget than I had originally anticipated. We're okay. I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, we're $1 million short next week. We're fine. We're figuring out how to balance that, but it wasn't quite as good as I had hoped. Flipping to the next page, this is right off the DPI worksheet, and all it does is kind of show you the trend for residents. You basically see our 3-year average going from 3644 to 3678, so an increase of about 34 students, and then that's applied to our $10,000 per student allocation that we get more of. Again, I had projected about 50, I think, this year rather than 34. Maybe slightly lower than that. So the next page, we get a little bit into the open enrollment numbers. And there was a change this year from the Department of Public Instruction on how they count They count special education, how they basically allocate resources for special students with special needs. And we're basically showing you the revenue associated with the open enrollment students. The open enrollment students that have special needs, rather than doing tuition agreements with those districts for those extra costs associated with those students, this year we were given a flat $12,000 for every student. That $12,000 comes from other districts, and if we have students with special needs that go to other districts, we send $12,000 their way. So it kind of gives you a feel for how that worked out this last year. We had 80, kind of in the budget comparison area there. We had last year 71 total open enrollments. This year we had 88, 82 being regular, and 6 being students with special needs. And then the one above it was the open enrollment pins. Sorry, I kind of jumped around there. You saw 268 coming in, 32 special students with special needs coming in there. And so you can kind of see the dollars coming in on the top and the dollars going out on the bottom. And then you can see the net revenue on the bottom. So this year, our net revenue from open enrollment went up about $150,000. Charles?
Yeah, Andy, I'm interested particularly in the numbers for special needs enrollment, category. What are the factors that seem to be driving that? In terms of other programs that we were offering that seem to be attracting?
So these students were here last year too. It's just how we're counting them. So we do have some students, maybe some additional students in special education than we did last year. But there are certain programs where we had room that you folks gave spots for, and then there were certain services that we were closed to. OT-PT, for instance, we were closed, and so any students that would try to come to us for OT-PT, we had to say we're sorry.
And this is state mandated then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it is up to the board to say, we have spots for these disciplines, and you can close it or you can open it, but once it's open or closed, then whoever comes. So that was a good sign, and that additional funds for open enrollment kind of helped us balance those other things that I said, where the enrollment numbers weren't quite as high as they were supposed to be, or I hoped they would be, projected they had to be. So that kind of helped us balance a little bit. The last slide was a little bit of a surprise about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and that's our equalized assessed value. Our equalized assessed value I had projected to be increasing about 4.5%, and actually increased 6.5%. Sorry about that.
Don't apologize.
Well, it was a total shock to me. I was sitting in my living room, and I'm like, I wonder if the Department of Revenue has posted these numbers yet. And I pulled it up, and I was like, that can't be right. So what happened was Fitchburg. Fitchburg had a significant amount of increase in EAV that I hadn't anticipated. The problem with Fitchburg, when I look at Fitchburg numbers in August, is there's such a small portion of Fitchburg that's in Oregon School District, and I can just see what happened to Fitchburg. I couldn't attribute how much money or how much assessed value increased in Fitchburg that was attributed to Oregon. Apparently a significant amount of the increase in value in Fitchburg this last year was attributed to the Oregon School District. So it was hard for me to gauge that, and that was the surprise. That was about $35 million in additional EAV at Fitchburg. Our total obviously increased about $130 million. A good part of that, like $75 million, is actually from Oregon, Village of Oregon. So.
Andy, are you able to discern from those numbers what is attributed to reassessment on existing houses and what is attributed to new development?
So I could by using somewhat. If I look at the individual municipality and what's going on in that municipality, and they don't break it out for the school district in that municipality, but if I just look at the individual municipality, I can tell. So for instance, the Village of Oregon is encompassed entirely in Oregon School District, and I can look and see what's going on there. Off the top of my head, I don't have those numbers, but the Village of Oregon is the only one that I can really do that in a complete sense, because it's completely included in Oregon. Town of Oregon is real close to that. I think the vast majority of the town of Oregon is also in Oregon School District.
The village hasn't been reassessed this year. They didn't roll people up, did they?
Actually,
Did they?
I know my assessment went up 4.5%
Okay.
personally. I think there was a sizable increase. It was over 7. Our assessment increased in the Village of Oregon, Oregon School District by like 7% is the number that's in my head right now, 7.5.
Okay. And Fitchburg, it seems to me, is a lot of new development.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, where it drives that.
I think that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
There's a very substantial multifamily development in the corner of Lacey.
Lacey and
Sain.
Sain area. Yep.
Mhm.
Now, remember, when we're talking assessed values, this is as of January 1st, 2016.
Right.
So this is way back last winter.
It'll be going up next year as well.
Right. There's quite a bit of growth over there.
Yeah.
So the significance of an increased EAV is it does decrease the mill rate from our projections. So I have some numbers on that, but we'll save that for next time. It will basically be going down from what we anticipated when we approved the preliminary budget at the annual meeting.
But at some point that starts affecting our state aid also, right?
So
It's
that's
kind
the
of
next
two-edged.
year. Yep,
Yeah.
it's always the following year that the state looks at us in relationship to everybody else and says, do you come richer or poorer? And if you became richer, then you have more resources to pay your property taxes for that because you're richer. So,
Any questions?
Just a comment, that doesn't appear to be a factor for voucher payments. The property tax wealth, the assessed valuation. is
has
not
no
a
impact
factor.
on vouchers.
Right.
No. And to my knowledge, and I think I would know by now, we don't have any voucher students in Oregon School District that are going out to other school
Right,
districts.
but the voucher money comes off the top and affects every school district.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
With these numbers, Andy, I know the preliminary budget that we approved at the annual meeting did not have a contingency fund for that. Where are we at with that? Are we able to?
Good point. You're foreshadowing my next presentation. We have able to get that back to $30,000.
Okay.
So it was in the past around 50,000, but we were able to get it to up to 30.
Historically, how much of that contingency has we ever used again?
We haven't been using much of it lately, so not really any of it. The idea though is if something happens mid-year or something like that, it gives the board the ability to address that need.
Without diving into fund balance,
Right.
to deal with it. In the good old days, it was 200 as a budget line.
It was a couple $100,000, yes. That was a while back.
Yes, it was.
Any other questions?
Great, and then I encourage board members in the next couple of weeks, if you have any questions about the final budget, to contact Andy or myself, and as we move forward for the final budget approval in 2 weeks.
2 weeks it is.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Good
bet.
news for us. Item 2, under informational items, is report on November 8th educator compensation referendum. And Brian, that's you, I think.
Yes, I have 3 main items tonight for the board. First, I would like to showcase something that will end up in your mailbox on Thursday or Friday. Your name will be here. It's going to about 10,000 residents in the Oregon School District. The full document will look like this. It's 4 pages, and we've been working with the Donovan Group on this. Gwen and Krista have taken a look and have helped us out. It starts with a letter to the community outlining the educator compensation plan. And then the inside pages provide information that you have seen before, talking about our educator compensation plan, our timeline, as well as some frequently asked questions that we lifted from our district website, along with how will the plan be funded. You noticed Andy mentioned that our tax base has increased by 6.5%. We adjusted how the plan will be funded based on some ideas that we had with Joe Donovan. You'll remember initially we were at $45 per 100,000, Now with the increase in tax base, we're at approximately $38. I'm not sure that that causes someone to vote yes or to vote no, but in one of Joe's takeaways was if you have the more accurate information you have, you should make a change to the document. Additionally, on the average house, which remember the average house is going to increase in value too.
Right.
We don't exactly know what that is, but on the average house, our annual tax impact will be around $100, probably just a shade under 100. Again, depending on if your home grew more than the average, stayed exactly the same last year, or in some cases dropped relative to the average. So the financial news, as Andy shared, continues to be promising, and this should be in your mailbox this Thursday or Friday, and at the latest on Saturday. But remember, it's bulk mail, so we are competing with other bulk mail, and we don't get higher priority or lesser priority. So we hope this is out. This is a very similar timeline that we used in the capital referendum in 2014. So that's one item. A second item, we have 2 community meetings scheduled for the next 2 weeks, over the next 9 days. I shared an email with board members earlier today, just to serve as a double reminder. I guess now this is the triple reminder. This Thursday on October 13th, we will be at the middle school from 6 to 8:30. So far, Barb has mentioned that she'll be available to join us. What we're going to do is set up a number of tables, and the PowerPoint presentation that we have will have large slides of the PowerPoint presentation set around at various tables, and depending on how many people come, we'll kind of walk them through that PowerPoint presentation in something we in the school business call a gallery walk. We're going to do the same on Tuesday, October 18th, except this time we'll be at RCI, again from 6 to 8:30. 6:30? 6:30 to 8. Thank you, Janie. I didn't proof my handwritten note to myself. The other item that Janie has taken care of, you don't have to worry, this isn't a school board meeting, but she's posted it that a quorum of the school board could be there and no action will be taken. So if you have any time between 6:30 and 8, please drop by and visit with a few community members, and if you're comfortable helping out at one of the tables, we'd invite you to do that as well. Lastly, we're nearing sort of the last call for community presentations. We're right around in that upper to mid 50s, but if you have a community presentation that you would like us to make, Barb and I talked about adding one at the end of October, so we're going to do our best to get that added and get it on our official calendar. But if you have a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, you decide the group, we would be happy to have that conversation. Last Friday night, I had the opportunity, Charles was at the Oregon Progressives meeting, and I had the opportunity to come in sort of round 2 of a conversation. There was a regularly scheduled event, and there were a couple of community members talking about the referendum, and I responded to a few questions. So just let us know. The better, the more time we have for advance notice, the better. But we want to make as many community touches and outreach as we can over the next month, getting us right up to November 8th. So with that, I'll stop and see if. Oh, one other thing. I will distribute the updated orange notice, and you will see on the very bottom it says revised 10/10/2016. We've already dropped about 3,500 of these, so we didn't call this Exhibit 2. We just made a little revision, and we made an upgrade to the how will the plan be funded, the tax impact information. So you will see these out floating around. And we have a number of. We actually have a number of presentations this week, and if I can find my list. Tomorrow we'll be at the Senior Center at 2 o'clock in the afternoon making a presentation. Last Thursday morning, we had the municipal officials meeting. Steve was able to make it to that, and he did the beginning part of the presentation. On Wednesday, I'll be meeting with the Oregon clergy. Again, Thursday or Friday, you'll receive the newsletter in the mail. If anyone has a free evening tomorrow, from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, Oregon High School Parent-Teacher Conferences are occurring, so we'll have a table there. I plan on being there tomorrow night. On Thursday night, during our community meeting, there's also Oregon High School Parent-Teacher Conferences, so we will have a table there as well. And then Friday morning, Steve and I are going to be visiting with the Oregon Chamber Board early Friday morning at one of their breakfast meetings. So lots of things going on. I saw Gwen had a question.
With the new good news about it going from 45 to 38, has there been an article reinstated in the Observer?
Scott is just getting that information today.
Oh,
so
thanks, Scott.
he gave us a thumbs up. Charles?
Just a quick observation. I was delighted with the presentation at the Oregon Area Progressive meeting on Friday, particularly by the presentation that Tim and Lima LeBrun gave. I thought that was very powerful and I think persuasive argument. I should also let you know, I've been knocking on a few doors.
We have to be careful that we don't get into persuasive stuff now.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say, just reporting.
Okay.
The response has been very encouraging.
Anybody else with any questions or comments? I got a couple points. One, today the Wisconsin Association of School Boards sent out an informational piece, and we're on it at our office to do that. And they noted that in November of this year, this November 8th, 21 school districts are going to referendum for override. And then already this year in 2016, 46 districts have gone to referendum. So that's a total of 67 districts have gone for operational overrides, which echoes the comment that, you know, this was the clear intent of the governor through the budget process, that if we were going to seek any additional operating funds, that districts were encouraged to go out to an operating referendum, and that's what's happened. To date this year, 80% of the operating referendums have passed, which is significant. And 10 of the 13 recurring questions passed, which is pretty significant. So we're not alone in this. This is becoming fairly common in terms of what is happening across the state. The Journal Sentinel has an outstanding series that they're running right now regarding the economics of school district operations post-Act 10, and there are a lot of statistics in that, and a couple points are relevant. They note that exactly 75% of districts are losing their teachers more often after Act 10 because a competitor offered a better salary or benefits. And so that echoes this board's rationale in terms of what they were seeing, the facts that we saw it. 2/3, 67%, say they've been outbid for applicants and are increasingly offering special pay raises in hopes of keeping high-performing teachers. So factual data in terms of what the world is out there. Additional data from the Journal Sentinel reflects that in Dane County, of Dane County schools and of Badger Conference schools, Oregon ranks 16th out of 19th in average teacher compensation, which reflects what we have been saying, that while we're competitive, we've lost the ground that we had prior to Act 10. Okay, and it notes that we're 13th out of 19th in per pupil spending. So our cost per student is amongst the lowest in Dane County and in the Badger Conference schools. So that reflects not only a need that we indicated in terms of where we sit in teacher compensation, but also it's justified where we sit in terms of pure pupil spending. Okay?
Is teacher comp included in the per pupil spending
Yes, it is.
figure? Okay,
Yep.
so that correlates.
That
then.
correlates. You know, we're 16 out of 19 to 13 out of 19, so there is a direct correlation there. And then I noted that, I went back and looked what Monona Grove's operational referendum was. They went out in 2015, and that was for the 2016-2017 school year. Their rate per 100,000 was $137 per $100,000. Ours right now is at $37 or $38, and theirs passed overwhelmingly. So, some facts, if people want facts in terms of what's going on out there, where we're at and where other folks are at, those are some relevant facts worth noting. Anybody have anything else on the November 8th educator comp referendum? Okay. Superintendent report, Brian.
I have 8 quick items. First, and Mr. Kleiner I know is very happy, we had a successful homecoming 2016 that was also very uneventful, which all the students had a good time and we had a successful homecoming. Community meetings, I think I shared a few that are coming up, so I won't spend a lot of time. So far, we've completed 27 meetings or touches with the community or staff. So we're about a little over halfway through. And again, if you know a group or a community group that would like a presentation or some information, we are happy to provide that. Today, our girls golf team, as a team, competed in the WIA State Golf Tournament. This is their 3rd trip to the WIA State Tournament since 2009, and their final day is tomorrow. And for October, I'm not sure that you could get 2 better days to be outside, so we hope that the sun shines tomorrow. As Andy mentioned, my next item, the equalized valuation grew by 6.5% to $2.1 billion. That indicates the strength of our local economy and the strength of home values, which is always a positive thing in a community. Tomorrow we have a significant reading and literacy training that's going on in the district office on Lucy Calkins. I know Leslie has shared that, and you're familiar with that, with the Lucy Calkins reading and literacy training.
Who's doing that?
We have
Staff members or someone coming in?
Someone's coming in.
Nice.
Someone's coming in. And then a project that I know many of you are familiar with that we worked on the entire last year and sort of an internal task force, and that's the Bridges math curriculum. And that implementation and talking with teachers and visiting with Leslie has been very, very smooth. Our staff really selected the Bridges math curriculum, and that has been just a great step forward for us. And then 2 last items. Have you received this yet? I don't think so, so I'm going to send one around. This is information that we have been working on since the Vision Committee put together the last board paper. A number of board members and committee members have been involved in preparing this, and these are documents that we are ready to share with staff. But before we do that, we wanted to make sure and give board members a copy.
It's very nice.
I'll go in reverse order. This is really the inside page of our trifold. And a number of board members, Barb, Gwen, and Krista have been instrumental, as well as Jeff, in making these documents happen. So you will see them throughout the community, and we're going to share them with all of our school staff as well. And I know you've seen this before, but we have finally landed on the final project with the top of the apple being green and not gray, so we know we're a thriving school community, not one that isn't thriving. So we're very proud of this work, and If you remember the first day in the Vision Steering Committee, must be 4 months ago, 5 months ago, when we brought out various graphic illustrations, and when the Apple puzzle was brought out, everyone lit up, and here we are today, 4 months later. So it feels very good to be in this situation. Thank you to the Vision Steering Committee and board members for your work on that. And then lastly, the last item I have, I hope you have marked your calendar for next Monday night, Monday, October 17th, from 5:15 to 6:30 p.m. I will use the word, we'll see if, or a phrase, this will get Carrie Majeski excited. I'm used to calling this an open house tour, but I realized we can't call it an open house tour because that has different meaning, particularly at the elementary level. So Carrie and I came up with a creative name. It's called the Brooklyn Fall Fest Tour. And this is an opportunity, it's open to everyone in our community. We've sent out some special invitations, and I'm going to distribute your special invitation. We've been working on this with Kristen Milsna from Findorf. I might have sent one too many that direction, so. Oops. Jeff, yours might be coming by. Oh, perfect. It's really an open house, and it's an open house tour. Sorry, Carrie, I said it again. And you are going to have the greatest tour guides in the world. The tour guides will be Brooklyn Elementary School students. And you might remember we put together a map like this when we did tours of the facility during the capital referendum. Kristen is putting together a map similar to this, and parents, community members will stop out. We'll have some brief remarks at 5:15, and then the key part is visiting the 5 different sections of the school. And I know you're all familiar with it. It's the safe and secure entrance, which was one of our top priorities. A couple of new classrooms, our new orchestra and general music classrooms, the changes we've made in the library, and then the cafeteria expansion, which is one of the big feature elements of our school construction. We are 100% complete, right, Carrie? Wow. And the new bus and parent drop-off loop is fantastic. Obviously for parents, they've been in the school already, but we hope to have a nice turnout and showcase what is a beautiful facility that's going to serve our students for years and years to come. So we hope you can make it on Monday night, October 17th, 5:15 to 6:30. We know it can't go too late, or we won't get people to come. So it's sort of right before the dinner hour. That concludes my report, unless anyone has a question. And if you know anyone that would like a local business that would be willing to have some of our Path Forward brochures, just let Janie or me know, and we will drop them off at banks and local businesses. We drop them off at law firms too.
I'd be
Great.
happy to help with some distribution.
Great, thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Brian.
Terrific report. Good stuff happening in the district. Item G of our agenda is closing and future agenda. We've got a draft agenda for our meeting on Monday, October 24th, which includes our usual A, B, and C items, but the action items would be, as we indicated tonight, the approval of the 16-17 budget and the tax levy at that time. And then our big item then, in terms of discussion items, is you're bringing forward the student achievement reports, which is going to take a different format this year.
Yeah, it's going to look significantly different. The administrative team has been working on this since our summer workshop. You'll notice, or I hope you notice, it is much more readable. We still have all of the detail and the background information for those of you that like to get into the weeds on student achievement. But the goal with this particular report is to make it more readable for parents in the community. And it's our first try at it, so It might take a couple of adjustments over the next several years to get it right, but so far it looks terrific, and at our administrative team meeting tomorrow, we're going to take one last final look and make a few tweaks, and we will unveil it on Monday, October 24th. And I'm sure all of the administrators will sigh a bit of relief when we get this project off our desk and into your hands and into the hands of the community.
Great. And then we'll have our typical informational items, particularly the referendum update and superintendent's report.
Correct.
Okay, anybody have anything else that they would like on the agenda for the 24th for consideration? Charlie?
This would really probably just be a referral policy. I would like the policy committee to look at the issue that came up last time with committees, ad hoc and otherwise. And so that would probably just be a referral.
You have to work with Barb in setting the agenda and the timing of that. All right, anything else? Okay, checkout. Krista?
Nothing for me.
Dan?
We had our first meeting of the environmental task force last week. I don't remember which day, but we set Tuesday. We set an agenda for meetings coming up. So we're gonna have probably about 8 or 9 more meetings, and then a report to the board in February. So we talked about a lot of things. We had some very enthusiastic people at the meetings, and we are going to be having at the next meeting, which is next week, Wednesday. We're going to be meeting regularly on 2 Wednesdays a month, except for some months when we'll meet on 1 Wednesday. And at our next meeting, next week Wednesday, we're going to have reports from each school as just a general short report as to where our particular school representatives on the committee believe that we are as far as environmental education mainly goes. I need to also report, I want to see if I can get some time with Andy and get some of the information that he's shared with us in the past about where we're at operationally as far as environmental in our buildings. And that's where we're at. So I'm looking forward to finishing a report for the school board and presenting it next February.
Thank you. Charlie?
I think Tessa may be next.
She's already reported.
Oh, I thought in terms of checkout. Was anything else?
I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Didn't want to pass her up. On next Wednesday, the 19th, I'm going to be going to Chicago for the opening of Hamilton.
How'd you get tickets? How,
No, he's magic.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I'll
please
let you
report
know.
fully, please report fully.
I will report back.
And if you have any source for tickets.
Yeah, it's going to be black tie too, so I got to get
Yeah,
dressed up.
have a great time.
Thank you.
Yep, fun.
I'm very pleased to report that on Saturday, the October 8th, we had our first arts initiative, Art in the Park, Triangle Park. And this is what friendship poles look like when they're finished. This one was done by several people. And this one is a larger one, and this one is a smaller one, done with Mom and her daughter. And what was really pleasant about all of this one also goes on another base. I just didn't have the equipment to do it. And we must have had over 30 people there. And people did not finish everything, but there was a family of 4 there who did 2 sides. The parents did one side, the children did another side, and left the other 2 so that another group, other people could paint on it to form a symbolic friendship. The day was beautiful. It started at 10, but really it started at 9:30. We had from 9:30 to 2 o'clock. And a shout out to Heidi Kircher and Kari Rottle from RCI art teachers, as well as Ann Cutter, who is a library professional. And I was just amazed at the joy that was at this event and how it all came together. We had one snafu in terms of what do we do with water to wash brushes. So Ann got on the phone, and next thing you know, and she did this on a Friday night, and the thing was on Saturday. We had the fire department had a truck full of water for us to use, so the brushes were clean quite often. And so it started lots of good conversation. We have some requests for where to place the sculpture. We're taking it on the road, probably to the Oregon Youth Center. It is a cross-generational, after-school, non-curricular. Thank you, Andy, for helping with this. Is he still here? There you are. And it's really quite successful, and I think we have something going on. And it's really a lot. It was so much fun. I was really tired afterwards, but it was one of those happy tires. And I just recommend that we keep this, that if you can join us, gonna see if we can use the community center at the Village Hall during the winter so that we can have a place to do it indoors when the snow is blowing, because you know what? We can make friends anytime and anywhere. So I thank the district for allowing this, and I can't reiterate how much fun it was and how successful it was. It was sort of an experiment, and the Arts Initiative for the Oregon School District is alive and well. I'm thinking in April, Haiku-a-Palooza, because we need a written word too. So April is National Poetry Month, and what better way to celebrate and write in haikus? It's 575.
Thank you, Gwen. Barb, anything? Jeff? And I don't have anything, so at this point in time, the board is going to be considering to move into a closed session for purposes of beginning a process of the superintendent's evaluation. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session under Wisconsin Statute 1985 1C for that purpose. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Charlie, second. Dan, second. Ms. Wick, could you call the roll?
Mr. Uphoff,
Yes?
Mr. Kraus?
Yes?
Ms. Maetzen,
Yes.
Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes.
Ms. Feeney?
Yes.
Mr. Zak?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. The board is in closed session. We're going to move to the fishbowl conference room back in there, and we will convene for purposes of our closed session discussion in 5 minutes, and the board will not return to open session.
Will we be able to return to here?
We will check logistics to pick up your stuff.
Yeah, and cars are parked out.
Yeah, likely we will. We'll be able to come up this way. Yes.
I love it. It took a little bit, it's like,
Correct.
I had a white dog.
It's just the board.
Orange brochure.
And I had to turn it on.